Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be exploring degrees in astrology. Why are they so important? Stay tuned because we are going to get into it. But before we do, make sure that you give this video a like, subscribe, click the notification bell. And if you are interested in booking a reading with me, then you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find my practical astrology ebooks guide, merch, cheat sheets, all that good stuff. All the links to these products will be in the description box down below. And if you want a new video early, ad-free, plus PDF guides and daily forecasts, head on over to my Patreon. And I also want to say thank you so much to my patrons for all of your support. As always, I hope you find this video to be helpful. Let's do this. Okay. So what do I mean by degrees? So when you look at your birth chart, notice how there are 12 signs around the outer wheel. I will show you here. Each of these signs is 30 degrees. Then when looking at the inner wheel, notice how there are 12 little slices. These are the houses, each representing key areas of life. But you see, the size of these houses varies depending on the house system you use. Now, I have made a video titled, Which House System is the Most Accurate? This video pretty much breaks down a few of the different house systems in more detail, so I will link it down below. But essentially, the size of the houses can vary depending on the house system you use. And there are many. But to make matters easier for today, we'll focus on whole sign, so the whole sign house system. This is a traditional house system and is the house system that I use within my readings predominantly. I also use others, it just depends on what my client requests. Still, notice here how each house is 30 degrees lining up with each of the signs. 12 signs or 12 houses times 30 equals 360 degrees, creating a circle. Notice here how Mars is 13 degrees in the sign of Libra in this person's chart, or here how the Sun is 25 degrees in the sign of Cancer. The degree of Mars tells us something about how Mars manifests. Then the degree of the Sun also tells us something. And this leads me on to degree theory and Decans. Astrologer Nebula, I will just put the astrologer's name here because I don't want to even attempt, and then I'm going to mispronounce the name. But yes, came up, we'll just say Nebula, came up with the degree theory in astrology, which, by the way, Nebula had a Virgo rising with the chart ruler being Mercury in Aquarius. Very inventive, innovative, especially when we consider the amount of astrologers who now use what I'm about to share. So the idea is that each degree represents one of the 12 zodiac signs, giving a specific meaning. The energy of the planet will change, therefore, slightly depending on where it's placed. I will present a list of the degrees on the screen so you can follow along, but the Aries degrees are 1, 13, 25. The Taurus degrees are 2, 14, 26. The Gemini degrees are 3, 15, 27. The Cancer degrees are 4, 16, 28. The Leo degrees are 5, 17, and 29. The Virgo degrees are 6 and 18. The Libra degrees are 7 and 19. The Scorpio degrees are 8 and 20. The Sagittarius degrees are 9 and 21. The Capricorn degrees are 10 and 22. The Aquarius degrees are 11 and 23. And then finally, the Pisces degrees are 12 and 24. So in the case of Mars in Libra at 13 degrees in this chart, Mars then takes on an Aries flavor. There is something rather pioneering and assertive about this person, even though Mars in Libra indicates greater indecision when initiating. Or in the case of Sun in Cancer at 25 degrees, the Sun takes on an Aries flavor as well, further highlighting quickness and impatience to this person, especially when it comes to expressing themselves. Perhaps this person is not as shy as certain Cancerians, even looking at their moon, which is important to locate when further exploring this person's personality, because the moon then rules Cancer and is the dispositor of the Sun. The moon is in Sagittarius, highlighting freedom and enthusiasm. Moon is also at 23 degrees, an Aquarius degree, pointing to slight aloofness and being somewhat chilled. So, as you can see, the degree theory adds more nuance. They add the many layers and mysteries of a person. And they also have something to say about our life path and our direction. For instance, this person's North Node is in Virgo in the 12th house at 21 degrees. Therefore, their direction and their destiny takes on a rather Sagittarius feel, as they feel called to perhaps follow a path of service, possibly working within the medical industry, something health related, within hospitals. Perhaps traveling long distance is also a part of what they do. Okay, so moving on to Decans. Notice here how the 30 degrees of each house and sign are further split into 3 categories, which, by the way, to find this, go to traditional decans from the display and calculation options on astro.com. Notice with the sign of Leo here in this person's chart, there is 10 degrees of the Sun, 10 degrees of Jupiter, and then 10 degrees of Mars. These show the 3 decans of Leo. Decans add an extra flavor to how the planets manifest. Decans are the threefold divisions of each sign of the zodiac into 10-degree segments. The first decan is from 0 to 9 degrees, 59 minutes. The second is from 10 to 19 degrees, 59 minutes. And then the third is from 20 to 29 degrees, 59 minutes. Though there are a few different ways of determining the decan ruler, but in the case of modern astrology, the first decan of any sign is the ruler of the whole sign, okay? So in this case, the first decan is the Sun, and of course the Sun is the ruler of Leo. Or in the case of Aquarius, right? So the first decan is Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Again, though, of course, this is modern astrology, so we're thinking about modern day rulers in this way. So then the ruler of the second decan is then the ruler of the next sign in the same element, and then the third decan would be the ruler of the sign after that. Again, in the same element. So in this case, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries are all fire signs, right? Sun rules Leo, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, Mars rules Aries. Sun is the first decan, Jupiter would be the second, and then Mars would be the third. The order of things changes then depending on the sign. Notice even here how the midheaven is located in the Sun decan of Leo in this person's chart. Mercury is then located in the Jupiter decan of Leo, and then Venus is located in the Mars decan of Leo. Therefore, whilst this person has all of this Leo energy, how these planets play out can differ depending on the decan they're in. However, there is also the traditional way of doing things, which you could say is a little more complicated. This dates back to ancient Egyptian times. The Egyptian calendar had 360 days marked by decan stars rising at 10-day intervals, plus 5 intercalculated days. Ancient astrologers subdivided each sign into periods of approximately 10 days. These divisions are known as decans or decanates. The decans and their rulers are based on the description by the Alexandrian Egyptian astrologer Ptolemy. Hellenistic astrologers then divided each 30-degree zodiac sign into 3 equal segments. And in traditional and hooray astrology, I always find that word funny, like hooray. Anyway, the decans are often called faces, and these faces are considered minor essential dignities and are the least influential. Now, the Chaldean order laid out by Lilly shows these decans. This is a way of ordering the planets from slowest to fastest. So looking at the speed of their orbits from Earth. So again, in the case of this person, the midheaven would be in a Saturn-ruled decan, Mercury would be in a Jupiter-ruled decan, and then Venus would be in a Mars-ruled decan. Saturn, remember, it's the furthest from the sun and has the slowest orbit, and then it follows by Jupiter coming in, and then by Mars coming closer to that, so you can kind of see the order. Then it goes in that order all the way around the zodiac, which, by the way, in order to find this traditional style, select Chaldean, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Chaldean decans from the display and calculation options on astro.com. So I hope that you can see so far, you know, why degrees, they really are important when it comes to reading your chart. And they do certainly add more flavors and layers when exploring your chart. Though do try and not get confused between the two, because I know for myself I was a little bit like, because on astro.com it says traditional decans when really this style of decans is more modern. Yeah, because it focuses on the modern rulerships. But yes, I hope that you can explore these decans for yourself. Another area to touch on when looking at degrees are critical and anaretic degrees. Critical degrees are said to be rather sensitive, but they can also be quite strengthening, okay? If you're someone with a critical degree in your chart, how you experience that planet may be powerful and pretty notable. When we look at this chart again, Mars is in that critical degree position, right? Because it's 13 degrees. And you see 13 degrees in any of the cardinal signs is considered a critical degree. So the critical degrees are as follows: 0, 13, and 26 for the cardinal signs. So looking at Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Then 8, 9, 21, and 22, they go to the fixed signs, okay? So these are the critical degrees within the fixed signs. The fixed signs being Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And then finally, 4 degrees and then 17 degrees go to the mutable signs. These would be the critical degrees. So the mutable signs being Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. But you see here, 0 degrees and 29 degrees are critical degrees in any sign, any sign. 0 is potent, it's new, it's fresh, okay? And 29 degrees is strong and it's ending, but yeah, there's a strongness to it. 29 degrees is known as an anaretic degree. There is a feeling of urgency as the planet gets ready to move into the next sign. Apprehension is also likely. The native with planets at this degree, rather, 29 degrees, can feel like, you know, they've seen it all before. Okay, been there, done that. Bought the t-shirt. 29 degrees also indicates evaluation. We kind of notice this when it comes to transit planets. At 29 degrees, it's like you're evaluating the transit, what came up for you. And then 0 degrees is like the beginning, like a new, exciting, fresh beginning. 0 then is like the entering of a planet, whilst 29 is like the exiting of a planet. Now, let's move on to something very important when it comes to degrees, and that is timing. This is going to be particularly useful when tracking transits and secondary progressions in your chart. Though for more information on how to read transits and progressions, you can watch my videos all about them. I will link them down below. But in a nutshell, transits can show you the type of things you experience day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, right? Depending on the length of the transit. They essentially look at what's going on now and what's up ahead. And then secondary progressions look to your personality growth, how things, evolve, how you evolve as a person, how you change as a person. The movement of secondary progressions, though, is much slower. Both transits and secondary progressions are really handy timing tools to use. Of course, solar arc directions is another one. But the role of degrees is significant because degrees can help you identify when certain events and changes are up ahead. For example, looking at the day that I'm recording this video, Venus is in Capricorn at around the same degree as this person's Neptune retrograde in Capricorn, 28 degrees. So Venus is then conjunct this person's Neptune retrograde, telling us something about their love life, okay? And how such matters might be foggy right now for them. But this is very much an internal experience due to the retrograde motion of Neptune. That's another thing to remember, retrogrades. However, Venus will enter Aquarius on the 16th of February, moving away from this person's planet, right? And so this is a short window of influence, as you can see. These relationship conditions will soon start to change as Venus leaves Capricorn and enters a new sign. See why degrees are so important? If you have planets in a particular sign, meaning your natal placements, well, these placements being activated by transits add to the story of your life. Though another example with this person also has Saturn in Aries at 20 degrees. Therefore, they will experience their Saturn return within the next few years, okay? Because Saturn is currently in Pisces and then it's going to enter Aries over the next couple of years. And this is when Saturn returns then to its natal position in their chart. It takes Saturn about 28 to 30 years to travel through all 12 signs. And so we experience a Saturn return about 2 times in our lives on average. You could live longer than that, of course. But when transit Saturn, meaning where Saturn currently is, when transit Saturn reaches the 20-degree point, a Saturn return chart is drawn, okay? It's drawn highlighting a new cycle, a new beginning, a new set of lessons for this person. This also happens with other planets, right? So these are known as planet returns or planetary revolutions. We experience a Mercury return every year or so, for example. Same with Venus. We experience a Mars return every 1.5 to 2 years or so. We then experience a Jupiter return every 12 years. We also experience a lunar return every 28 days or so. And then a solar return every year, our birthday, right? But the duration of time is based on the speed of the planets. But like I said, when these returns happen, a new chart is drawn. And again, this is why degrees are so important, because the degrees of the planets will help you see when your next returns take place, ushering in new beginnings and cycles, all with different purposes. I have also made videos about returns and retrogrades as well. I'll even just link the playlist How to Read Charts in the description box. There's a lot of videos there. I think there's like 30 videos there. But again, looking at transits, by following the path of the planets, you can predict what might be up ahead for you. So for example, when you might start a new relationship, when you might leave a job, when you might get married, when you might gain a pay rise, when you might take a trip or go on a holiday. Planets activating your natal placements can show up as change and experience. And when looking to secondary progressions, they do move much slower, like I said, but you can also follow the movements and degrees of these in your chart for more understanding of how your personality and your outlook might slowly shift and evolve and change over time. This then leads me on to Synodic Cycles and how degrees are pretty important when tracking these. So a synodic cycle commonly refers to the period of time it takes a celestial body to complete an orbital period. So for instance, it takes the Earth about 365 days to orbit the Sun. We see this every year, right? Happy New Year! Naturally, matters vary depending on different calendar systems. So the Chinese New Year is much different to that of the Western kind of world, for example. And then the New Year in the Gregorian calendar, January 1st, is different to that of the astrological New Year, which begins on the first day of Aries season. But of course, in the Southern Hemisphere, the beginning of Libra season. But if we are to focus on the astrological calendar, we look at the cycles of the planets from the beginning of the zodiac. So beginning at Aries, from Aries. Take Venus last year, for instance. Venus was in Aries from around February till March 2023, then in Taurus from March till April, then in Gemini from April to May, then in Cancer from May to June, and then in Leo from June all the way to October. This was because we experienced a Venus retrograde in Leo. Then Venus throughout 2024 will be in the signs for around an equal period of time because there is no retrograde of Venus this year. But in 2025, Venus will retrograde in Aries and Pisces. Then even another example when looking to Mercury, the fire signs take up most of Mercury's time throughout 2024 because we will experience Mercury retrogrades in the fire signs throughout this year. Essentially, it is really useful to track these to see which degrees they'll play out in, and then relate it back to your natal placements. So for instance, Mercury retrograde happens in Aries from the 1st until the 25th of April this year, going from 27 to 15 degrees. So do you have any Aries placements at around these degrees? And when we talk about synodic cycles in astrology, this is about a planet cycle relative to the sun from our viewpoint on Earth. We also refer to the relationship between any two planets. A synodic cycle starts at the conjunction between two planets. So, for example, right now in the sky, Chiron conjuncts the North Node at 16 degrees, highlighting a new cycle. Then what we do is we track them again to see when the next conjunction will occur. Take the Mars Cassimi here, okay? So we experienced a Mars-Sun conjunction in Scorpio, November 2023. This ushered in a new cycle between Mars and the Sun. And then in January 2025, another conjunction of Mars and the Sun occurs, but this will be in the sign of Capricorn. And so essentially, this synodic cycle of Mars and the Sun takes around about 2 years or so. In the case of Venus, though, August 2023, we saw the conjunction of the Sun and Venus retrograde in Leo. This was the inferior conjunction. And then in June 2024, we will see the conjunction of the Sun and Venus in Gemini. And this will be a superior conjunction, but an inferior conjunction will occur again March 2025. Only this time it will be in Aries. And so the synodic cycle of Venus and the Sun takes about 1.6 years, around about that. So, as you can tell, degrees are sort of a big deal. They help us when it comes to tracking the cycles and patterns of the planets, seeing how they align with your own chart. They even help with pre and post shadow periods. So when we look to retrogrades, so the time period leading up to a retrograde and the time period moving away from a retrograde. A shadow period starts when the planet first passes the degree of the zodiac that it will eventually retrograde back to, and ends once it eventually passes the degree that it originally stationed retrograde at. Degrees matter when looking at shadow periods. Take the Mercury retrograde in Aries as previously mentioned. The pre-shadow period begins on the 18th of March at 15 degrees. The degree the retrograde ends at. So from the 18th of March until the 1st of April, we prepare, okay? We consider what steps we might retrace during the retrograde itself. Then from the 1st until the 25th of April, the retrograde occurs from 27 to 15 degrees. Then the post-shadow period is from the 25th of April until the 13th of May, and this is when Mercury reaches 27 degrees, the very degree the retrograde started from. During a post-shadow period, we mull things over, okay? We consider what we learned from the retrograde. Degrees then also help when reading moon phases. This is why sun-moon combinations are so different. But essentially, the moon goes through 8 major phases as it transitions from new to new again. It goes new moon to waxing crescent, first quarter moon to waxing gibbous, the full moon to waning gibbous, last quarter moon to waning crescent, and then back to new moon. The moon is the fastest moving celestial body in astrology, and so keeping up with the degrees and the movements of the moon can assist us on a daily basis. Very handy for daily forecasts, which I have over at Patreon. Still, a good way to know if you're in a first or third quarter moon phase is by looking at when the sun and moon create squares to one another. Then new moons show the sun and moon conjunct at the same degree, and full moons show the sun and moon opposite at the same degree. And lastly, let's explore orbs. Orbs matter when it comes to degrees. Orbs essentially show the margin of influence between planets. They show their power, their strength, their significance in your chart. So for instance, if Mercury and Venus are the same degree in your chart, this makes for a rather powerful influence. These planets work as a team. But if they're 3 degrees apart, meaning a 3-degree orb, they would still be somewhat strong, right? They're pretty strong actually. But if they're 10 degrees apart, so meaning a 10-degree orb, this would be somewhat significant, right? But anything past that, the energy between the planets would not be so influential. Of course, the planets would still be conjunct by sign though, just not by degree, but this is why degrees are so important. The strength of the orb then also depends on the planets involved. So for example, if Saturn and Uranus are 5 degrees apart, this wouldn't be as strong as a Moon-Mars conjunction, which are 5 degrees apart. And this is because Moon and Mars have closer orbits. The type of aspects then also matters. Major aspects have larger orbs than minor aspects. What are aspects, you might be wondering? We'll explore in the next video, which you can gain early access to by becoming a patron. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video talking all about degrees. Please let me know if you found this video to be helpful. Did you learn something new? I would really appreciate your feedback. And like you, I'm always learning. You can find the sources that I used in this video in the description box down below. And again, thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon for all of your support. As always, let me know your thoughts and your opinions on today's video in the comment section. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and also give this video a like if you did like it today. And I will be back with another video very soon. Bye.